office?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh.
Thank you all for coming out. Head Coach Walt Wells will be available for about 15 minutes worth of questions, so we'll jump right into it. If anyone wants to lead off, and we'll go from there.
Well, I'll first off start off by saying thank you guys for showing up today. I know it's Sunday and everybody's got a lot to do, so I appreciate everybody being here. Looking forward to this season. Football is always going to, and I tell these guys ever since I've been here, college football, if it's competitive and all things are equal, it should be tight. Everything should be a close game. So it's going to be the small things that make the difference. It's going to be the attention to detail. It's going to be, to make sure, the little things that you do sometimes once or twice in a week instead of every time in a week, because that scenario is only going to come up once or twice, that you've got to remember that and you've got to take care of that and you've got to understand situational football. And those are the things that we're practicing, and are going to continue to practice. Obviously, we're early in camp, but we will get into in camp all our situations and different types of situations and how we can expose them every week and every time we can. And when we think about those situations and put them in there, to have an opportunity, obviously, to succeed. But if they fail in practice, we're okay. We're still 0-0. Let's not fail out here when everybody's in the stands. And that's what we've been working on. And I'll give our kids credit. They're working hard. I mean, we put them through the grind here a little bit, and we want to grind them up. And I want to say who's going to spit the bit. And so we put them through it. And to their credit, they got a lot of resilience, a lot of resolve, because they just keep coming back every day. And so I'm proud of them for that.
Well, you had, alluding to the close games, I think 6 games of either 3 or 4 points, and won 2 of them. And looking at your first 2 years, it just seems like you're knocking on the door where you want to be. So what has to happen? You kind of encapsulated a lot of
Right.
to push through.
Well, I think, the number one thing is we've got to be consistent in what we do. And we got to, when we play well, we play well. And we got to play well consistently all the time. And that's got to be the culture that you have here, that everything you do is important. And sometimes, and I'm my own worst enemy sometimes, because sometimes when you think everything's important, you don't know what's really important, right? And we have to do a better job of teaching and making sure they understand that. And then they have to go out and perform. I mean, you can't have performance anxiety and do it in practice and be great in practice, and then you get out there on the field and you can't make that play. I mean, that's, as coaches, it's hard to say that because you don't want to single out any individuals, and we would never do that. But some guys, that's how it is. They get out there and, Mississippi State's going to have 70,000 cowbells going at us, and they, it can't be anything different than being down there on Presnell practice field. You got to go out there and you got to make the play, and you got to know what you do. You got to communicate. You got to do everything you need to do. And sometimes when they're young, that's the thing. And we've got to teach them that mistakes are okay as long as we don't continually make them. We've had great offensive production. We've got to get the defense to where it needs to be, and I think we are. And I think Jake's done a nice job of changing some things and understanding what he needs to do to be better. And I think the rest of the staff, the new additions, are really helping us. And I'm proud of that room right now. We're going to find out. We get judged on Saturdays. We all know that. Okay, that's just how this business works. And you can do everything you can. You can work your tail off. You can, have all these great motivational ideas. You can recruit your tail off. But on Saturday, if it ain't done, then you ain't done the right thing. I understand that. And I think we're right there on the verge of having a good football team. This year, obviously quarterback's a worry for me because we haven't had any of these guys play. And so I'm not going to sit there and sugarcoat it and be like, oh, yeah, we're fine. No, until I get out there and see them, I don't know if we're fine or not. But I think we do have talented individuals that show the traits that we can go out there and push to be good. It's hard. The biggest thing for us is when you start off with 2 FBS programs, you've got to keep pushing through and understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And in today's world, everybody wants it to be a sprint. Everybody wants the success right now, this, that, and the other. And we have, and I get that. I'm good with that. But, we have to continue to tell these kids, like, when they go into Mississippi State, they believe they're going to win. And if they don't, I ain't going to put them on that plane. So if it didn't happen, like last year, we went to Cincinnati and got boat raced, all right? And I can, not deal with that, but I can, like the question was earlier, I can deal with that because then the next week we go to Kentucky and we play them into the fourth quarter. That's the team I want. When you make your most improvement from game 1 to game 2, everybody says, which, I agree with that, but I also think you can continually to improve. And it takes a consistency to do that. And, the one challenge we have is, the transfer portal does rip you apart a little bit, so you got to continue to bring somebody in and have them roll into that consistency with you. And I know that's a long answer, but it is. It's not just a quick fix. It's not a microwave with 18 to 22 years old.
While we're on, you mentioned the portal, your pal Mark Stoops made some headlines with his comments about what coaching is to him today as opposed to what he signed up for. Well, you're in the same boat similarly. I mean, I assume you could relate to that.
No, it is. I mean, you spend, you've got to be great, and I'm not saying I am. You have to be great at prioritizing your time, because if not, you get away from the football piece too much, or you get away from the recruiting piece too much because you're trying to raise money. For us, we're trying to raise money budgetarily, and we're also trying to raise money NIL. And so it's, and that's fine. I'm not I'm not complaining about it, but that takes time. You got to build those relationships. People aren't just going to give you their money because you're Walt Wells and you walk out there and say, hey, I'm the head coach at Eastern. Give me, $10,000. And it ain't going to happen, So, you've got to build those relationships. You got to build relationships with your team, your staff, and it becomes all-consuming. Being at that level before, but not with the portal and NIL, I can only imagine just talking to my buddies that are Mark and even other guys guys at Georgia and Alabama. I mean, it's unbelievable what those guys go through. And I get it. It's what you sign up for. They get paid handsomely, all this and that and the other. I get all that. But it's still, the one thing that never changes is how the human body works. And there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only so much you can do with your health, mental health, all those things that everybody else has. Them coaches have it too. You just got to deal with it.
Well, you referenced the Western game a couple times. Can you just speak to the importance of getting that back on the schedule and what it means for those two schools and the state really for that game to be happening?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, they can't come here. How it's set up, with them being FBS and us FCS, but I would assume there will be a great crowd down there. First time I went down there as an assistant here, it was packed. The first time I was down there as an assistant, and Eastern came down in 2003, it was packed. And matter of fact, we had a streaker. It was unbelievable. And right out and through the railroad tracks. But it's just, I think it's great for the Commonwealth. I think it's great for Kentucky. I think it's great for high school football. There'll be just like Kentucky and Louisville, a lot of high school players want to look to that as a great game to play in. When they see the atmosphere here, our players, because when you go to a G5 venue, it's never really sold out. It has an opportunity to be sold out because of their tradition and the history. You got Coach Kidd, obviously, on this side that is a legend, Hall of Famer. Coach Fikes on their side, which I think is a Hall of Famer, and he is a legend down there. You just got so much tradition and history and respect from the two programs, even though there's, like I said before with Coach, and down there too, it's a hatred. It's probably relaxed a little bit since the FBS climb down there, but, each game is its own. And we have to play Mississippi State first, then we'll get to Western. But we got to understand those two games are non-conference. We got to worry about the UAC. But I think if both schools could play it regularly, even though there's a slight disadvantage, I understand with some things, I think it would be great for both schools because guess what? Great attendance. If we could ever get it to where they could come here, it'd be awesome. This place would be packed. I mean, these kids have never seen a packed stadium here. Probably, you haven't. A lot of guys haven't, but I have. You have. And the city of Richmond, the state of Kentucky high school football deserves that.
You're a former lineman. What does Peyton Collins bring to the O-line?
I tell you, he's a special talent. And the thing that I love about Peyton is he's so smart. He's such a great person. He leads in such a great way. And then he plays with an edge that, you can't teach. You can show what that edge is, but that finish and that desire to put you in the ground, that's what he plays with. And, and he brings an attitude to our room. And so I appreciate him. This is his sixth season in college, and, everybody's like, well, 6 seasons, playing O-line and starting every year, but his redshirt freshman year, which was the year we weren't here, starting every year and being successful every year, that's the consistency we need in our program. And so I'm very, very proud of him. I think he's a draftable kid. I've coached O-line for a long, long time and had great players and NFL players, and if he's not one, I don't know what one looks like. Now he may not do some things that they want him to do at certain times, but none of them do. I've seen some of them, and he's that good.
I know there hasn't been a ton of time with the transition at AD here, going from Matt to Kyle, but can you just speak about your initial impressions of Kyle and the relationship that y'all will build hopefully for many years into the future?
Yeah, he seems like a great person, and pleased that he's here, glad he's here. I really didn't get involved in that too much. I let the president handle that. I figured that's his land to farm, and I just stayed over here in my lane. And so I got to know Kyle here recently. I've spent some time with him. We had a opening for this camp cookout out at Lake Reba, and he came and spent some quality time there with us, which was good. Really the first time I've spent some quality time with him, and just started understanding his vision and what he wants, and I'm looking forward to his leadership and direction.
Coach, you talked about, you've pinpointed a lot how this is a long process, building that culture. You're on the verge of being a great football team. As you enter your 5th season, and if anyone knows about Eastern Kentucky football, it's you. How is this, speak on your journey and what it's been like ever since taking over as a head coach?
Well, it's been, I preach consistency and staying like this, and the journey's been like this because you start off with COVID, then we bounce back and have a good year, but we changed conferences, and then the next year we end up tying for the conference, going to the playoffs, and then, not doing well in the playoffs, which was very disappointing. And then we bounced back last year with a poor season, 5-6. And so, but I think we were in every game and we played well. I think the consistency's coming. We've just got to, make those plays that happen. Life is like that. What is it? The year we won the conference is when I had my heart deal and all this, that, and the other. So, it's been every year, every year as an assistant coach, you learn something, right? Every year as a head coach, you learn like a pile load because you get hit from so many different directions, and that hasn't stopped. That hasn't took my joy yet. When it takes my joy, I'll go be an O-line coach or a tight end coach somewhere. But it hasn't taken my joy yet because the thing I like about EKU is obviously the tradition, the history with Roy Kidd and all the great players that have played here. But I also like the fact that since I've been here, we've always been constantly trying to move forward. And I'm not talking about divisions. I'm talking about move forward with our budgets, with our facilities, with the things that we have gained here to make this program to where you can get on the level as some of the expectations. And so we're slowly working there. Now we got to continue to keep pushing in other directions to get to that level. But it's been a fun journey. I've learned so much as a head coach. I think I'm totally different than I was 5 years ago, and in some ways I'm totally the same. And that's part of the journey, I think, as you continually to grow.
Anything else for Coach?
All right, guys. Thank you all so much for being here.